And I think when a team openly shows their ass to a city, you should take offense to that, whether you're a fan of the sport or not, because reality, when that team's good, you don't even have to care about basketball, but you cared about the '04 Pistons. You cared about the bad boys. When the Wings are good and you're not a hockey fan and you're shoot the puck guy or you're asking them to roll 4 lines, you cared about the Wings. These teams have a civic duty to at some point be good and at no point embarrass us. Ticket text, and we go to your calls.
Never thought I would be this guy, but I will watch till they win. It's like a train wreck. You can't look away from, and we have become that team that everyone does their load management on. It's terrible in my Barkley voice. That is Tim in Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather Hatchet pray for Kane to regrow a new hip. The Pistons are a soul-sucking, ball-breaking waste of time and energy. Let them rot, from Ryan.
Oh, we've got thoughts on Mr. Kane and his debut tonight, and we're going to talk about him in the 3 o'clock hour. Go ahead, David.
Didn't watch the game, but saw the halftime score where they were leading and actively was rooting for them to choke in the second half and lose. Let's go. 2-80. Here we come. Jeremy in a truck.
Let's just start with 2-25. Just start out where you earn the second worst record in the history of basketball through 30 games.
Well, they're chasing history. Longest losing streak is 28. And now that's over 2 seasons. They could do it in 1.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about historic performance from our Pistons.
That's so pathetic.
4-45 their last 49 basketball games. That's impossible.
My. This is fun. I hate to admit this, but serious conversations need to be had about Cade, averaging nearly 5 turnovers per game this season and 4 turnovers per game in his 100-game career.
Has no help. Guys, you don't want to hear it. I get it. You know, Evan Jenkins, big basketball fan here at the station. Well, he's not exciting. I don't care what style of ball you play. You know who's not exciting? Chris Paul. He has no help. If you look at his assist totals, but then the amount of assists he's leaving on the table because he doesn't play with functioning humans who can hit a jump shot, Cade should have almost 6 more assists a night based on league average shooting percentages. That means I pass the ball to Kenny, and Kenny, like a sewer, shoots 11% from deep. Well, league average, hey, guy ought to be able to make 3.5 of those out of 10. His teammates make 1.
Well, that's where we get back to roster construction, where your GM has collected centers like it's 1985, and, oh, lo and behold, there's no spacing. And then at the end of the game, he's pressing. He is pressing at the end of these games. And then I think the opposite. Then he tries to let off the gas because he is pressing, and then no one will take a shot, and they can't hit anything.
How do you ever have a lineup that doesn't have Cade and Bogdanovich, at least one of them, in it? How can you play with both of them? That's where, Monty, you got to stagger your minutes.
Well, how much of this comes back to, remember that weird time before they hired a coach where it seemed like Troy had his list of candidates and Monty wasn't one of them, and then Gore's impassioned speech that we didn't get all the details of? This is not a marriage. This is a forced marriage. This is an arranged marriage between these two. It feels like Troy's like, I gave you all the pieces, and Monty's like, these pieces don't fit.
Pieces? I tell you what he gave him, but it would cost me my gig. He gave him a bag of duty. All right, to the people. This is uplifting. Let's go to Brian, 97.1. What's up, Brian?
Oh, Mikey, Cookies, thank you so much for taking my call. Hope y'all are doing well.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm a little upset, Mike, because, man, you just always seem to hit the nail on the head because you stole a bit of my thunder. But, as I told you several calls ago, I have become a disciple of Mike Valenti after the years of suffering, specifically under this franchise. And I am 100% rooting not only for the Pistons to eclipse the 30-game losing streak, 30 consecutive losses. I'm hoping that I'm praying. We need David's divine intervention here.
Yes.
I'm praying that they shatter that all-time record for losses. I truly believe that is the only way things will ever change with this team. And just give me a moment. I don't want to ramble too long, fellas, before you respond. But there's some precedent here, okay? We look back at the Tigers, 90s, early 2000s. Horrible franchise, right? Year in and year out, losing over 100 games. Finally, everything boils over in 03. They set the American League record for losses, or tie it, I should say, 119. Finally, Illich gets off his ass, goes out, makes a splash acquisition in Pudge Rodriguez, 3 years later, they're in the World Series. I get it. They didn't win a title, but it spawned the most competitive decade of Tigers baseball over, I don't know, the past half century after laying dormant for 20 years. Even the Lions, Now, granted, they didn't accomplish anything because William Clay Ford was just that inept of an owner. I mean, Tom Gores is probably related one way or another. But years under Matt Millen, they were terrible. Mm-hmm. They were 3-13 years, 4-12, 2-14. And then finally everything boiled over in 2008. They complete the first winless 16-game season in the NFL. And 3 years later, they shattered the odds and made it into the playoffs.
Yeah, Brian, now, what you're saying, though, we can condense it.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying ownership has to become embarrassed in order to act. That's all I'm advocating for.
100%, because we need Adam Silver to bail them out. And this is just the final point I want to add. Let me preface it by saying this is how much I appreciate the two of you and Rico when he's on the show for actually covering this team appropriately. The entire media in this town, I feel, is 100% culpable in the Pistons' incompetence because everybody, whether it's Bally Sports, whether it's the studio analysts, whether it's George and Greg, whether it's the beat writers, everyone and anyone associated with this team that has so much as a pen and paper carrying around with them has virtually acted as just a branch of PR. So there's never any pressure on this organization to make any changes because, the media is the sole medium through which fans' frustrations can truly be heard.
Well, Brian, I think what you're talking about is it has to be
in Philly.
No, it would never fly in Philly. Brian, to your point, it has to be undeniably bad. And that's what we're rooting for, is undeniably bad. You lose one of every 5 or 6. It's just that young, plucky team figuring stuff out, and nobody's going to say anything. He's right, Mike. Where is the beat writer writing the column, this thing doesn't work, someone should be fired?
Oh, let me help you.
It's undeniable, though. Even if they're not going to write it, you can't hide it.
Hey, here's another one. See, but this is the problem I have, and again, people are going to get upset. But you know what? George is a legend. Gregory has called the games for how long? Here's the deal. You have a responsibility. You're not getting fired if you criticize them, because do you know the firestorm that would happen if George Blaha was let go for being critical of this team, or if Gregory? No, but the difference is, this is the easy, we got to watch some great players tonight. Do you know I actually heard that line last week when LeBron was dropping his plums on you? Well, what a blessing we got to see LeBron. I'm like, you know what? Chair, spine.
It's amazing how he's still playing at a high level at this age.
I honestly was sitting there and I had a Donovan moment. You can't say that. 248-539-9797.